as we've seen, now let's kick off. 2015 was the busiest M&A year on record, in terms of volumes at least. But there is, I think, a sense, at least among practitioners, and certainly as illustrated by the Treasury notice last night, that actually getting deals done is more challenging, or at least getting deals to closing is more challenging. And I think, as Jeff has shown, the market reaction to transactions has been a little bit more skeptical, or at least a little bit more inquiring in the last couple of quarters than we've seen over the last couple of years.
Certainly in the macro sense of buying energy assets themselves, I think we're in an extraordinarily challenging environment, although last year you did have one big deal. I think it was last year when Shell
that's the one, 2015. Yeah.
bought British Gas. And referencing back China, I think having bought Nexen in Canada, it probably filled up enough on cross-border energy for the moment, although it may be back.
So the very nature of the pharmaceutical business is that you have a product that has a limited life cycle, and when it goes off patent, the revenues pretty much go away, which means you have to continuously reinvent your business. When you combine that with the fact that R&D is notoriously unproductive and dependent a lot on serendipity, there's almost a deal imperative built into the business model that requires pharma companies to acquire products and assets, whether the assets or the company with the assets, to maintain growth. It's almost built into the business model. While they may be just as easy to negotiate as they always were, I think in some ways they're harder to close and or take longer to close. And that's a combination of a variety of things, including the regulatory regime. We've seen a number of busted deals in the pharma sector over the last couple of years due to a variety of reasons, and including tax rules, and we may or may not be about to see another one, I don't know. But those regulatory impediments and the greater activism by foreign governments in the regulatory regime do make these deals harder to close.
The global M&A story is not really a single story, it's a sectoral story. And so when it comes to energy, that market does not seem to be in an active market at the moment, in part because commodity prices are down and product is not being shipped all over the world quite as much. Consolidation is a big driver. The revenue story is harder to sell. And so that's going to set up and maybe constrain the M&A possibilities, cross-border as well as local M&A. But also, pharma itself is its own story, which is not just kind of a global economic trend, but rather, in effect, it's the nature of the business. If your firm-specific R&D, even if you do a great job, is nevertheless going to produce results in a non-predicted way because of the nature of the biology, and you have an infrastructure set up to sell drugs worldwide, then that itself generates a certain need to do deals. And so there's kind of an internally generated, in the very business model, need to do M&A, and then precisely because it seems like there are certain economies in having a footprint to sell these drugs all over the world, that itself creates kind of a shape in which we see the cross-border M&A activity.